Hello, and welcome back once again to my Mass Effect Let's Play. So, here this time I'll do another couple of minor side quests along with, get through some of get through a little bit of the Codex a little bit as well. So I guess let's get to it. So I'm going to start with the missing Marines. The Admiral Kahoku has asked you to find a missing recon team in the Sparta system. All contact with the team was lost shortly after they were sent to investigate suspicious activity in the area. There we go. Tremonre, nothing there. Tremonre is a dwarf planet composed of light magnesium silicates with deposits of aluminum. Its surface is covered by wide swaths of ancient dark basaltic lava, possibly indicating the world was created through an impact with some other body in the system. Tremonre's magnetic field is non-existent. This makes it impossible for ships to dump drive cores from orbit. Drive charge from orbit. That said, Tremonre's minuscule gravity allows even cruiser-sized vessels to land safely for direct grounding. Yeah, sometimes you'll find things that can scam. Collection of small silicious asteroids loosely bound together by gravity. Silicious? Probably silicious. Prothean data disk recovered. While scanning the asteroid field in the Sparta system, you found signs of habitation. A recon team was sent to investigate one of the larger asteroids. The rock had a small functioning biodome, but no sign of anyone still living there. There was, however, a data console, with an intact Prothean data disk inside. On Tamalka. Large hydrogen-helium gas giant with traces of chlorine and sulfur in the atmosphere. Its massive gravity well tugs many asteroids from the outer belt inwards, past the orbit of Altaia and Aeolus, and eventually settle into the inner belt. Tamalka's orbit is congested with hundreds of captured moons. Most last only a few thousand years before being ejected, dragged down into the atmosphere, all ripped apart by tidal forces and added to the gas giant's immense rings. Attempting to navigate this chaotic environment is hazardous at best. Ships without military-grade kinetic barriers are likely to suffer catastrophic impacts. And gas deposit. Large concentration of hydrogen. Alsages. Small distant Alsages is a small terrestrial with a trace atmosphere of methane and argon. By the way, I'm guessing at the pronunciation there. Just gonna turn the volume down while I do this part of it. Yeah, I'm guessing at the pronunciations of a lot of these planets. Surface is composed of water, ice, and calcium with occasional deposits of light metals. During the Alliance's pirate suppression campaign in the 2160s, the Batarian Iliwam Ranpera was caught with his frigate Tanaran grounded on Alsages for drive discharge. When challenged by the cruiser Hyderabad, Ranpera refused to surrender. The Tanaran was destroyed attempting to take off. The debris is strewn across the southern hemisphere. And plutonium, hurrah! Altaia is an unusually large terrestrial world with a trace atmosphere of methane and ammonia. The surface is frozen and mainly composed of sandstone and other sedimentary rocks with deposits of iron and chlorides. Judging by the sedimentary composition of the crust, it appears that Altaia once possessed an atmosphere thick enough to support some form of liquid. What cataclysm stripped the atmosphere and left the planet to freeze is not currently known. Ooh, mysterious. And I think that's all the planets. Except, of course, this one.
Commander, I'm picking up a signal from the planet's surface. It looks like an automated distress beacon.
Idolus is a terrestrial planet with an atmosphere of carbon dioxide and nitrogen. Idolus' surface is covered by wide deserts of silicate sand, with only a few areas of igneous rock islands to break the abrasive, dust-choked wind. Idolus' orbit is congested with debris thrown inwards by the gravity of the gas giant Antamalka. Due to a high rate of meteor impact, exploration is highly dangerous. Alright. Doesn't really matter who I bring with me on this one, so. Rex and Garrus, why not? Alright, so first off, let's head for that distress signal. Yeah, this doesn't look suspicious. Alright, so yeah, I'm on fire now. Yeah, sorry, I was quiet there during the Thresher maw fight. Honestly, I find Thresher maws to be something that really take up my concentration.
Heading out.
They are dangerous.
Alliance soldiers. Looks like they were lured here by the distress beacon.
Looks like these men were under Admiral Kahoku's command. He'd want to know what happened here.
Poor guys. And while I'm here, have I... Oh, I did give her some stuff. Alright. Wasn't sure if I had yet. Couldn't remember if I'd actually taken her out on a mission yet. Apparently I did. Alright, so no need to level anyone else up here. So, yeah, that clearly lured here into a trap. Poor guys. Kind of weird that I can't actually turn off this this trap beacon. Yeah. So yeah, Thresher maws, honestly, they are tough to fight. Alright, get over to that. I mean, you see, like, yeah, I mean, like, the strategy they expect you to do is to just keep driving around it and keep driving around and shooting it. The strategy that works better is literally just, yeah, jump over its acid blast. It's cheap. Boy, is that ever a cheap maneuver, but it works. Another strategy that I often used in the first game was just go back and forth in a small period, in a small area. In the original, the Thresher maws couldn't actually pop up under the from underneath the any sort of raised area, which made them a really good place to sit. This game, they changed that, so that is no longer safe. But as I also mentioned, this game did add the Thresher maws actually tunneling underground, which the original game didn't. It would just pop up, which was honestly always kind of frustrating. So yeah, it's but yeah, they are still tough to fight. They are not a fun fight. But believe it or not, you actually can beat them on foot. Really tough to do. The better strategy is to wear, like in the original game, you'd get more experience killing things on foot. The Mako, if you kill things in the Mako, it took away some of the experience. ID tag recovered. You found Captain Mylon's identification tag. How it ended up here is impossible to know for sure. So yeah, in the original game, what was I saying? I don't even remember it. But alright, I think I was saying that in the original game they would just pop up. The Thresher maws would just pop up out of nowhere. This one, at least, you do get to see where they're going. But even so, they're still. Oh right, I was talking about in the Mako. Killing things in the Mako gave you a reduced experience in the original game. For the Legendary Edition, they did change that. You get just as much experience killing things in the Mako as you do killing it on foot. But the best strategy for dealing with Thresher maws in the original was to whittle it down with the Mako and then get out and finish it up on foot. Even so, real dangerous. At least until you got one specific ability. But which I will talk about much, much later in the game. Whoops. Perfect. Check servitors, high explosives, heatsink. Alright. Alright, nothing else listed on this map. There are a couple of mineral resources, I will meet you at each of those. So just give me a couple moments here. Alright, so here we have a lithium deposit. I'll meet you at the next one. And here we've got a nice, lovely supply of palladium. And once again, I believe there is one more to meet you at, so I will meet you at the last one. Okay, yeah, and here's the last thing. A supply of polonium. Which I may not get. Well, dang. You can try as many times as you want, making this minigame completely goddamn pointless. Whatever. Yeah, so palladium. And that's that. Oh crap. I didn't mean to do that. So yeah, that's that planet down. Very quick. Before I do the next one, yeah, let's get some more Codex entries out of the way.
After the Geth, Thresher maws are subterranean carnivores that spend their entire lives eating or searching for something to eat. Threshers reproduce via spores that can lie dormant for millennia, yet are robust enough to survive prolonged periods in deep space and atmospheric re-entry. Thresher maws are subterranean carnivores that spend their entire lives eating or searching for something to eat. Threshers reproduce via spores that can lie dormant for millennia, yet are robust enough to survive prolonged periods in deep space and atmospheric re-entry. As a result, Thresher spores appear on many worlds, spread by previous generations of space travelers. The body of a Thresher never entirely leaves the ground. Only the head and tentacles erupt from the Earth to attack. In addition to physical attacks, Threshers have the ability to project toxic chemicals and emit bursts of infrasound as a shockwave weapon. The Alliance first encountered Threshers on the colony of Akuz in 2177. After contact was lost with the Pioneer team, Marine units were deployed to investigate. The shore parties were set upon by hungry Threshers, and nearly the entire assault force was killed. Alliance forces recommend engaging Threshers with vehicle-mounted heavy weapons.
So, yeah, they are not fun to fight, is what it comes down to. They are tough. They are dangerous creatures.
The Citadel is an ancient deep space station, presumably constructed by the Protheans.
Like I should have.
Citadel space is an unofficial term referring to any region of space controlled by a species that acknowledges the authority of the Citadel Council. At first glance, it appears this territory encompasses most of the galaxy. In reality, however, less than 1% of the stars have been explored. Even Mass Effect FTL drive is slow relative to the volume of the galaxy. Empty space and systems without suitable drive discharge sites are barriers to exploration. Only the mass relays allow ships to jump hundreds of light years in an instant, the key to expanding across an otherwise impassable galaxy. Whenever a new relay is activated, the destination system is rapidly developed. From that hub, FTL drive is used to expand to nearby star clusters. The result is a number of densely developed clusters, thinly spread across the vast expanse of space, connected by the mass relay network.
Yep. Space big.
Spectres are agents from the Office of Special Tactics and Reconnaissance, and answer only to the Citadel Council. They are elite military operatives, granted the authority to deal with threats to peace and stability in whatever way they deem necessary. They operate independently or in groups of 2 or 3. Some are empathetic peacekeepers, resolving disputes through diplomacy. Others are cold-blooded assassins, ruthlessly dispatching problem individuals. All get the job done one way or another, often operating outside the bounds of galactic law. The Spectres were founded after the Solarians joined the Council. For many years, they operated in secrecy as backroom problem solvers. Only after the Krogan Rebellions did their activities become publicized. Assignment of a Spectre is less contentious than a military deployment, but makes it clear that the Council is concerned about a situation.
You know, I feel like we should probably try to learn about the Krogan Rebellions. Alright. The genophage bioweapon was created to end the Krogan Rebellions. From the start, the Krogan had overwhelmed the Council. Only timely first contact with the Krogans saved the Turian Council, or with the Turians saved the Council races. The Turians fought the Krogan to a standstill, but sheer weight of Krogan numbers indicated the war could not be won through conventional means. The Turians collaborated with the Solarians to genetically engineer a counter to the rapid breeding of the Krogan. The genophage virus gained the energy to replicate by eating key genetic sequences. Every cell in every Krogan had to be altered for the weapon to be foolproof. Otherwise, the Krogan could have used gene therapy to fix the affected tissues. Once a genophage strain could find no more genes to eat, it would starve and die, limiting spin-off mutation and contamination. This created genetic flaw is hereditary. The Solarians believed the genophage would be used as a deterrent, a position the Turians viewed as naive. Once the project was complete, the Turians mass-produced and deployed it. The Krogan homeworld, their colonies, and all occupied worlds were infected. The resulting mutation made only 1 in 1,000 Krogan pregnancies carry to term. It did not reduce fertility, but offspring viability. The rare females able to carry children to term became prizes the Krogan warlords fought brutal battles over. The Krogan are a shadow of their former glory. While the rebellions took place centuries ago, they are constantly reminded of the horror of the genophage, and of their inability to counter it. The release of the genophage is still controversial, bitterly debated in many circles. So it's a bit contradictory here. It says it doesn't reduce fertility, but then also says the rare female is able to carry children to term, suggesting the rare females with fertility. So it's a bit weird. Anyway, Krogan Rebellions. After the Rachni War, the quick-breeding Krogan expanded at the expense of their neighbors. Warlords leveraged their veteran soldiers to seize living space, while the Council races were still grateful. Over centuries, the Krogan conquered world after world. There was always just one more needed. When the Council finally demanded withdrawal from the Asari colony of Lucia, Krogan overlord Kridak stormed off the Citadel, daring the Council to take their world back. But the Council had taken precautions. The finest STG operators and Asari huntresses had been drafted into a covert observation force, the Office of Special Tactics and Reconnaissance. The Spectres opened the war with crippling strategic strikes. Krogan planets went dark as computer viruses flooded the extranet. Sabotaged antimatter refineries disappeared in blue-white annihilation. Headquarters stations shattered into orbit-clogging debris, rammed by pre-placed suicide freighters. Still, this only delayed the inevitable. The war would have been lost if not for first contact with the Turians, who responded to Krogan threats with a prompt declaration of war. Being on the far side of Krogan space from the Council, the Turians advanced rapidly into the lightly defended Krogan rear areas. The Krogan responded by dropping space stations and asteroids on Turian colonies. 3 worlds were rendered completely uninhabitable. This was precisely the wrong approach to take with the Turians. Each is first and foremost a public servant, willing to risk his life to protect his comrades. Rather than increasing public war weariness, Krogan tactics stiffened Turian resolve. The arrival of Turian task forces saved many worlds from the warlords' marauding fleets, but it took development of the genophage bioweapon to end the war. There were decades of unrest afterwards. Rogue warlords and holdout groups of insurgents refused to surrender, or disappeared into the frontier systems to become pirates. I was hoping for a bit on the Rachni Wars, but hey, despite all the evidence confirming the existence of the Protheans, little is known about their culture and society. From time to time, dig sites will yield new clues, but after 50,000 years of decay, little value is unearthed. Recent research has focused on the discovery of Prothean data disks. On their own, they are frail and rarely found in one piece. Occasionally, however, an intact disk will be discovered within a console or reading device. To date, over 3 dozen disks have been recovered, and a few of those have been restored to the point where researchers can begin analyzing them. Though it may be some time before the scientists discover a way to transfer the data off the disks, they are currently considered the most tangible leads for learning more about Prothean culture. Solarians, League of One. Before they joined the Citadel Council, the Solarians' most potent military tool was a small reconnaissance team known as the League of One. Their primary training was in espionage and assassination. Never more than a dozen strong, the team was adept at infiltrating the tightest defenses and eliminating all necessary obstacles. Only a few top members of government and military were privy to the League's identities. League members wore no distinguishing garments and held no particular rank. The only evidence of their participation in the League was a small medallion presented to each member upon induction. This secrecy was maintained until the formation of the Council. In an effort to dispel rumors and appease their new Asari partners, the Solarian Union released all classified documents pertaining to the League. The League of One was suddenly exposed and in danger of being hunted by enemies of the Solarians. Before any harm could be done, the team mysteriously disappeared. Most assumed this was a convenient lie to help hide their identities, but a few months later, the inner cabinet was murdered. Though there was no incriminating evidence, it was clear who was responsible. Realizing the threat posed by this rogue outfit, the Special Tasks Group dispatched a team of hunters. When they didn't return, the STG dispatched 10 of its brightest operators with broad discretionary powers. Only 2 returned. They reported no evidence of the League. No further incidents were reported, and it was assumed the League was wiped out. Some recently declassified documents, however, have suggested there may have been a 13th member who eluded the Solarian military. They'd all be dead now, of course. Turians, the Unification War. At about the time the Solarians and Asari were forming the Council, the Turians were embroiled in a bitter civil war. The Unification War, as it was later named, began with hostilities between the colonies furthest from the Turian homeworld Palaven. These colonies were run by local chieftains, many of whom had distanced themselves from the hierarchy. Without the galvanizing influence of the government, the colonies became increasingly isolated and xenophobic. Colonists began wearing emblems or facial markings to differentiate themselves from members of other colonies, and open hostilities became common. When war finally broke out, the hierarchy maintained strict diplomacy and refused to get involved. After several years of fighting, less than a dozen factions remained, and the hierarchy finally intervened. By that time, the chieftains were too weak to resist. They were forced to put an end to fighting and renew their allegiance to the hierarchy. Though peace was restored, it took several decades for animosity between colonists to fade completely. To this day, most Turians still wear the facial markings of their home colonies. As a point of interest, the Turian term barefaced refers to one who is beguiling or not to be trusted. It is also a slang term for politicians. Will be another good one to read. Citadel conventions. Okay, there's a lot here. These diplomatic talks occurred in the wake of the Krogan Rebellions as a response to the destruction of the conflict and an attempt to distance the Council from the brutal Krogan warfare. The conventions regulate the use of weapons of mass destruction. The WMD causes environmental alteration to the world. A bomb that produces a large crater is not considered a WMD. A bomb that causes a nuclear winter is. Use of WMD is forbidden on garden worlds, like Earth, with ecospheres that can readily support a population. If a habitable world is destroyed, it will not be replaced for millions of years. The The conventions do not forbid the use of MWND in hostile worlds, or in sealed space station environments. Many militaries continue to develop and maintain stockpiles. The conventions graded weapons of mass destruction into tiers of concern. Tier 1 is the greatest threat to galactic peace. Tier 1, large kinetic impactors, such as asteroid drops or deorbiting space stations. Effectively free and available in any system in the form of debris left over from planetary accretion, kinetic impactors are the weapon of choice for terrorists and third galaxy nations. Yeah, they brought over that term for some reason. Even though it actually kind of doesn't really make sense. Like, in our world, the term third world country basically referred to countries that weren't aligned with either the US or with the USSR. Like, that's what a third world country was. So it doesn't really make that much sense for third galaxy to be a term here. Tier 2, uncontrolled self-replicating weapons, such as nanotechnology, viral or bacteriological organisms, von Neumann devices, and destructive computer viruses. These weapons can lie dormant for millennia, waiting for a careless visitor to carry them on to another world. Tier 3, large energy burst weapons, such as nuclear or antimatter warheads. And finally, Tier 4, alien species deliberately introduced to crowd out native forms necessary for the health of an ecosystem. Ecological tampering can take years to bear fruit, making it difficult to prove. Before I continue there...
Humanity's first contact with an alien race occurred in 2157. At that time, the Alliance allowed survey fleets to activate any dormant mass relays discovered, a practice considered dangerous and irresponsible by Council-aligned races. When a Turian patrol discovered a human fleet attempting to activate a relay, they attacked. One human vessel survived, retreating to the colony of Shanxi. The Turians followed, quickly defeating the local forces. Shanxi was occupied, the first and to date only human world to be conquered by an alien species. The Turians believed the handful of ships they defeated represented the bulk of human defenses, so they were unprepared when the Second Fleet, under Admiral Castany Thresher, launched a strong counteroffensive, evicting them from Shanxi. The Turians mobilized for full-scale war, drawing the attention of the rest of the galaxy. The Council quickly intervened, forcing a truce. Fortunately for humanity, the First Contact War was ended with a diplomatic solution.
Yeah, the Turians would have absolutely steamrolled humanity. Like, it wouldn't even have been a fight. It would have been just destruction.
The Systems Alliance is an independent supranational government representing the interests of humanity as a whole. The Alliance is responsible for the governance and defense of all extrasolar colonies and stations. The Alliance grew out of the various national space programs as a matter of practicality. Sol's planets had been explored and exploited through piecemeal national efforts. The expense of colonizing entire new solar systems could not be met by any one country. With humans knowing that alien contact was inevitable, there was enough political will to jointly fund an international effort. Still, the Alliance was often disregarded by those on Earth until the First Contact War. While the national governments dithered and bickered over who should lead the effort to liberate Shanxi, the Alliance fleet struck decisively. Post-war public approval gave the Alliance the credibility to establish its own parliament and become the galactic face of humanity.
Yeah. FTL Drive. New space travelers ask, what does it look like outside a ship moving at faster than light speed? Part of the answer can be seen in a simple pane of glass. Light travels slower through glass than it does through open air. Light also moves slower in conventional space than it does in a high-speed mass effect field. This causes refraction. Any light entering at an angle is bent and separated into a spectrum. Objects outside the ship will appear refracted. The greater the difference between the objective exterior and subjective interior speeds of light, the greater the refraction. As the subjective speed of light is raised within the field, objects outside will appear to redshift, eventually becoming visible only to radio telescope antennae. High-energy electromagnetic sources, normally hidden to the eye, become visible in the high blue spectrum. As the speed of light continues to be raised, X-ray, gamma ray, and eventually cosmic ray sources become visible. Stars will be replaced by pulsars, the accretion disks of black holes, quasars, and gamma ray bursts. To an outside observer, a ship within a mass spec drive envelope appears blue shifted. If within a field that allows travel at twice the speed of light, any radiation it emits has twice the energy as normal. If the ship is in a field of about 200 times light speed, it radiates visible light as X-rays and gamma rays. And the infrared heat from the hull is blue shifted up into the visible spectrum or higher. Ships moving at FTL are visible at great distances, though their signature will only propagate at the speed of light. There's a lot here. Let's do another mission and then I'll read a few more entries. Let's go to this one. Hydra system of the Argus Rho cluster. Only the one system here. There's only one that we can go to. Varmalus. There's a thick atmosphere of nitrogen and helium. Its surface is scorching hot and mainly composed of alumina with deposits of borax. The planet has an extensive network of subterranean caves formed over the millennia by volcanic processes. In these relatively cool areas, some primitive life has developed. Neat! Canrum. Canrum is a small, rocky world with a trace atmosphere of methane and krypton. Its surface is mainly composed of magnesium and silicates with deposits of carbon. Canrum was the site of the warlord Shiagar's defeat by Turian peacekeeping forces during the Krogan Rebellion. While this band was not especially powerful, Shiagar was a female warlord, and one of the few remaining fertile females at that. She had, through viciousness and cunning, parlayed her unique value into position of power. Krogan males competed for the right to join her band and lie with her. When Shiagar's death was announced, vengeful male Krogan admirers, near and far, swore blood oaths against participating Turian troops. In the end, several thousand of the Turian participants were killed in open combat or through assassination. To this day, many Krogan proudly proclaim that they have the blood of Shiagar. And Turian insignia. Scans of the planet Canrum have revealed dangerous levels of radiation coming from orbit. Chief Engineer Adams conducted further scans and discovered the remains of an ancient warhead marked with the Parthia colony insignia. Interesting. Thayar. Thayar is a large gas giant with traces of chlorine and sodium in its atmosphere. It also has a significant amount of water vapor in the clouds of its upper atmosphere. Thayar was struck by an asteroid at least 12 kilometers in diameter within the last 100 years. The superheating caused by the impactor's atmospheric passage created a large bank of vicious storms along the equatorial band, which sadly we don't really get to see. Saiba is a standard Neptune-type gas giant. The upper cloud decks of its hydrogen-helium atmosphere are tinted a dramatic blue by traces of methane. That's a very pretty planet. And large concentration of helium-3. Neat. And I believe that's all the other planets here. So,
Message coming in. Patching it through.
General distress call. Sacred Angel medical transport. Critical system failure. Losing power. Emergency landing. Argos. Communications failing. Life support. Emergency transponder. Won't last. Please hurry.
Level 2 heat hazard. Metgos is a large terrestrial planet with an atmosphere of carbon dioxide and nitrogen. Its hot surface is mainly composed of nickel with deposits of potassium and heavy metals. It is a mineralogical treasure trove, with concentrated heavy elements constantly being brought to the surface by volcanic activity. Metgos is inhospitable and dangerous, and expeditions must be well prepared to survive any length of time. With its high mass, heat-trapping clouds, and constant volcanic venting, Metgos seems well on its way to becoming a Venusian pressure cooker planet. And, yeah, so let's go check it out. Again, it really doesn't matter. These UNC side quests, it really doesn't matter who you bring along on them. Basically, none of them have anything in the way of dialogue. Well, let's start with that. Kind of a shame. As a side note, apparently there were plans for a whole lot more of these. Yeah, there was like half of the UNC missions cut, with the number of visitable planets halved as a result. Another bit of cut content was global missions, multi-world side quests. One of which included a war between the Hanar and the Listini, Solarian offshoot. There's still some information about that in the source code. So they were obviously on their way to, they were obviously developing it already before they cut it at the time. So, yeah, you can actually still find, or people have found, I should say. Have found a fair bit of information about it. You can... Yeah. You can look up information on it. I think people have made videos explaining the cut content. There's certainly been articles about it. And thorium deposit. And yes, for this, staying outside will eventually cause harm. So yeah, you can see you can see that bar at the bottom. Once it tops off, it'll actually start to engage it.
It looks like the signal's coming from that wreckage.
Careful, Shepard. I've got a bad feeling about this. Geth, there's a trap!
Oh, right. I wasn't really paying attention. Where are you? Oh, there you are. I mean, credit for the guts for not running away as soon as I started. As soon as you were alone against a giant ass tank.
Let's get moving.
For some reason I thought you could actually get something out of that. Apparently not. Alright, so let's head back north though. So, yeah, a little bit of a Star Wars reference in the dialogue there. I've got a bad feeling about this, along with it's a trap. On a fun note, I believe I've got a bad feeling about this. I think it's been said in just about every Star Wars movie. Has it been every Star Wars movie that quote appears in? And it's a trap. You know where that one comes from. Go. One issue. So the biggest problem with the planet exploration is the planets. They are, for the most part, they're not very easy to navigate. A lot of weird angles, a lot of tough hills to climb. So it's kind of a pain in the ass. During insignia, while searching the wreckage, you found a very old letter stamped with the Gothist colony insignia. Unfortunately, the text is indecipherable. And this is the last thing, so I will go there, and then I'll do the normal thing of pausing to get to each of the who's it, what's it? The mineral deposits. Yeah, it's especially in the original when you didn't have these thrusters. Getting around planets was just a colossal pain. Some planets in particular were just like impossible to get around, especially with their quite often you'd have some you'd have materials in places that are tough to get to. So yeah, the Mako's physics engine was pretty bad. It didn't really interact with the ground particularly well. There we go. Aha, easy. Woo. Where'd I park? There I went. Alright, so yeah, I'll see you at the next thingy. And yeah, here we've got a mercury deposit. And that actually finishes the planet. So, yeah, just a couple of very quick missions, and with that out of the way, let's learn a little bit more about some of the people on our crew. There's still a few things we need to ask Joker.
Commander, something you need?
I like to know my crew. Mind if I ask you a few questions?
I can see where this is going. You did a background check on me, didn't you? Well, I'll tell you the same thing I told the captain. You want me as your pilot. I'm not good. I'm not even great. I am the best damn helmsman in the Alliance fleet. Top of my class in flight school, I earned that. All those commendations in my file, I earned every single one. Those weren't given to me as charity for my disease.
And yeah.
What are you talking about? Are you sick?
You mean you didn't know? Oh, crap. Okay, I've got Vrolik syndrome, brittle bone disease. The bones in my legs never develop properly. They're basically hollow, too much force and they'll shatter. Even with crutches and my leg braces, it's hard to get around. One wrong step and crack! It's very dramatic. But I've learned to manage my condition, Commander. Put the Normandy in my hands and I'll make her dance for you. Just don't ask me to get up and dance unless, you like the sound of snapping shin bones.
Fun fact, Vrolik disease is real. It's a real thing. And,
I need to know more about this Vrolik syndrome if I'm putting my ship in your hands.
Yeah, of course you do. It's an extremely rare condition. Nobody knows exactly what causes it. Genetic, maybe. It's treatable, but there's no cure. They classify my case as moderate to severe. I was born with over a dozen fractures, hip, thighs, ankles. My bones were already breaking in the womb. 100 years ago, I wouldn't have survived past my first year. Lucky for me, modern medical science has turned me into a productive member of society.
I like his delivery. It's very much like someone who's had to explain it 1,000 times.
You're not gonna break a bone trying to fly the ship, are you?
I don't fly with my feet, Commander, so I'm fine as long as I'm in this chair. I gotta be real careful when I get up to take a piss, though. I can do my job as well as anyone on the ship. Better, actually. So don't worry about it.
I'm not trying to make you uncomfortable. Let's talk about something else.
Whatever you want, Commander.
I do really like his confidence as well.
Why does everyone call you Joker?
It's a lot shorter than saying Alliance Flight Lieutenant Jeff Moreau. Plus, I love to make little children laugh.
I was just thinking how much you remind me of Santa Claus.
Look, I didn't pick the name. One of the instructors in flight school used to bug me about never smiling. She started calling me Joker, and it stuck.
With that,
Why didn't you ever smile?
Hey, I worked my ass off in flight school, Commander. The world's not gonna hand you anything if you go around grinning like an idiot. By the end of the year, I was the best pilot in the academy, even better than the instructors, and everybody knew it. They'd all got their asses kicked by the sickly kid with the creaky little legs. One guess who was smiling at graduation?
How'd you end up joining the Alliance?
Look, if you're looking for an inspirational tale of the crippled kid overcoming impossible odds, you're gonna be disappointed. My mother was a civilian contractor working for the Alliance. I basically grew up on the Arcturus station back when they were building up the fleets. Spend all that time around Alliance ships, there's a good chance you'll end up going to the Academy.
I have to go.
Alright, see ya.
So yeah, Joker's got like a really interesting backstory. And like I said, I love just how annoyed he is about having to answer those questions.
Yes, Commander?
How did you end up assigned to the Normandy?
I signed up with the Alliance as a navigator right out of school, following in my grandfather's footsteps, I guess. My first posting was on the Agincourt. We were at Elysium during the Skillian Blitz. A massive fleet of alien raiders hit the colony, trying to wipe it out. They had the numbers, but their ships were no match for an Alliance frigate. It was a slaughter. We couldn't even keep track of how many ships they lost.
How'd you end up on the Normandy?
I got my officer's commission after Elysium. Must have made an impression on the right people. Captain asked for me when he was picking his crew.
Carry on, Presley.
Yes, ma'am.
Alright, so that is basically the last time it will ever be worthwhile to speak to Presley. I'm not joking. He's got no more dialogue for the rest of the game. Except for one brief part.
Yes, Commander? Is there something you need?
How did you end up serving on an Alliance ship?
I enlisted right out of med school. Earth always seemed boring to me. Too safe, too secure. I figured the colonies were teeming with exotic adventure. I wanted to travel the stars, tending the wounds of tough soldiers with piercing eyes and sensitive souls. Turns out military life isn't quite as romantic as I'd imagined. But humanity needs the Alliance if we want to keep expanding through the Traverse, and the Alliance always needs good doctors. So I stayed on to do my part.
I'm pretty sure I did talk to her about all this already, didn't I?
You made the wrong choice?
Sometimes I think about opening a private practice back on Earth, or maybe taking a position at one of the new med centers out in the colonies. But there's something special about working on soldiers. If I left the Alliance now, I'd feel like I was abandoning them.
I should go.
Goodbye, Commander.
I'm not going to bother with Caden right now. This elevator feels so long. Like, longer than it did in the original somehow. Probably just my imagination, but...
Something I can do for you, Commander.
I want to know more about the Normandy.
She's the best ship I've ever served on. Probably the fastest vessel ever designed. And she's the only one using the new Tantalus drive core.
What's so special about the Tantalus drive core?
Proportionally, it's about twice the size of any other vessel. Not only are we faster, we can run at FTL speeds longer before we have to discharge the core.
I'm pretty sure I asked about the stealth system as well, so...
Where else have you served, Adams?
If you name a class of Alliance ship, I've probably served on it. Everything from dreadnoughts and carriers right down to frigates like the Normandy. My last assignment was on the Tokyo, only a cruiser, but she was a good ship. Couldn't hold a candle to the Normandy, though.
Carry on, Adams.
Aye, aye, Commander.
And hey, that's the last we'll talk to him.
Oh, hello, Shepard.
Are you okay?
I don't know. Your ship is amazing, and your crew's been really great to me, especially your chief engineer. But I just sort of feel out of place. The Normandy runs so smooth, it feels like we're not even moving. And the engines are so quiet. How do you sleep at night?
Yeah, I feel that. I don't like how the delivery of her, "Oh, hi, Shepard." I don't like how that line's... I don't like that line. It feels like a give me attention type of thing to say, you know? But whatever.
The silence wakes you up?
Back on the flotilla, the last thing you want to hear is silence. It means an engine's died or an air filter shut down. I guess you don't have to worry about that here. But old habits die hard. But it's more than just the silence. This ship feels so empty. It's like half the crew is missing. Back home, I couldn't wait to go on my pilgrimage. I couldn't wait to get away from the crowds. Now that I'm out here, I kind of miss them.
I sympathize with her on the too quiet to sleep thing. That is a real thing.
Sometimes we don't appreciate what we have till it's gone.
That's true. I'm starting to wonder if that's what the pilgrimage is really about. It's given me a whole new perspective on my people and our culture. You know, there's always a few who go on their pilgrimages and never return. I always assumed something bad happened to them, but maybe they just wanted a different life.
You do plan to return to the migrant fleet, right?
I could never abandon my people, Shepard. I will go back eventually, but we have to stop Saren first. Otherwise, I might not have a home to go back to.
Alright, so let's get some learning.
Tell me about
some
your
learning.
Our lives aren't easy. Resources are scarce, and we are constantly on the move. Everything we do must in some way contribute to the continuation of the migrant fleet. There are 17 million Quarians in the flotilla, and each of us relies on the others for survival. The bonds among my people are strong. Unfortunately, we have had to surrender many of the freedoms and civil liberties other species take for granted.
What kind of freedoms?
Well, it's illegal for parents to have more than one child. If our population grows too much, it would strain our resources to their breaking point. Of course, we also can't allow our numbers to become too few. If our population is in decline, the rule against single births is temporarily repealed. In extreme cases of population decline, incentives are even offered to encourage multiple births, though the Conclave hasn't had to take such measures in nearly a century.
That's your government.
The Conclave is our civilian branch of government. Each ship can elect a representative to serve on the Conclave and make decisions that affect the fleet as a whole. On matters that affect an individual ship, however, the captain has the final say. It's a tradition that dates back to the early days, when the fleet was governed by martial law. Fortunately, most captains nowadays are smart enough to have an elected council from their crew to give them advice and guidance.
So the ultimate power rests with elected officials?
In practice, the Conclave and the respective council for each ship tend to set the rules that govern our daily lives. But in theory, we are still under military jurisdiction. The 5 top-ranking military officials in the fleet serve on the Admiralty Board. These 5 have the power to overrule any decision by the Conclave in case of emergency. To do so requires unanimous agreement among the Admiralty, and they can only do this once. After that, the entire board must resign their posts. It's a safeguard that served us well. In nearly 3 centuries, the Admiralty Board has only overruled the Conclave 4 times.
It's a really interesting system that they have, I think. I really like that the restrictions in place for the Admiralty Board. The fact that they have to all resign after if they make if they make any sort of ruling. That's really cool. And yeah, the whole thing with the democratic democracy under military jurisdiction. Yeah, it's a weird combination, but yeah, I think it's pretty cool.
I want to know more about the Geth.
I doubt I can tell you anything you don't already know. It's been almost 3 centuries since they drove my people into exile. All I know is the story of their origins, what they were when we created them, and how they turned on us.
Interesting.
The Geth were originally created to serve as an automated manual labor force. Initially, their intelligence was as limited as any VI. Over time, we made small modifications to their programming to allow them to perform more varied and complex tasks, bringing them closer and closer to true AI status.
How come the Council didn't step in and stop you?
This wasn't true AI research. We may have been skirting the bounds of the law, but we never did anything that was actually illegal. The changes were so insignificant, so gradual, that we were able to control them. Or so we thought. But one thing we underestimated was the power of the neural network. A million Geth thinking simultaneously created an inherently unstable matrix.
So the Geth share brain power?
Many of the Geth's logic systems were designed to work in concert with other nearby Geth. Basically, the more of them you have in a group, the smarter they are.
So there's some sort of group consciousness?
No, nothing like that. They cannot share sensory data or information. Their programming cannot handle that much simultaneous input. Each Geth maintains an individual awareness and identity. The neural network only operates on a process-based level. It's basically the synthetic equivalent of a subconscious. But when they're in close proximity, they can coordinate low-level functional processes, freeing up more capacity for original or independent thought.
That is very unique
That doesn't
and
make
confusing.
any sense.
I'm probably oversimplifying. The Geth are incredibly advanced and complex creations. All you need to know is that they get smarter when they gather in large numbers. As we built more and more Geth, their effective intelligence became more sophisticated, more abstract. One day, a Geth began to ask its Quarian overseer questions about the nature of its existence. Am I alive? Why am I here? What is my purpose? As you can imagine, this caused a near panic among my people.
I don't see what's so bad about those questions.
The Geth were created to engage in mundane, repetitive, or dangerous manual labor. That's fine for machines, but it won't satisfy a sentient being for long. The Geth were showing signs of rudimentary self-awareness and independent thought. If the Geth were intelligent, then we were essentially using them as slaves. It was inevitable the newly sentient Geth would rebel against their situation. We knew they would rise up against us, so we acted first. A general order went out across all Quarian-controlled systems to permanently deactivate all Geth. The Geth responded to this order violently.
I mean, people do regularly have jobs that are mundane, repetitive, or dangerous. They may not be satisfied in those jobs, but welcome to capitalism, I suppose.
Hey, you can't blame them for fighting for their survival.
We had no other choice. The Geth were already on the verge of revolution. By acting quickly, we had a chance to end the war before it began. The hope was that most of the Geth would still be little more than machines, incapable of organized resistance. But they had progressed much further than anyone anticipated. The war was long and bloody. Millions upon millions of Quarians died at their hands. In the end, we were forced to flee our own homeworld. We feared the Geth would pursue us, but they never came beyond the Veil. Now we drift through space, exile, searching for a way to reclaim what was once ours.
It's hard to feel sorry for you. Your ancestors tried to wipe out another species.
We made
That's
a
a bit
mistake
harsh.
when we created the Geth in the first place. But we did not make a mistake when we went to war against them. If we had not acted, they would have wiped us out. They're a synthetic life form. They have no use for organics. None. Why do you think they cut themselves off from the rest of the galaxy? Why do you think they've killed every organic being who's ever tried to contact them?
They didn't kill Saren.
What does that tell you? The Geth are not innocent victims in all this. They're the enemy. They want to destroy us. Not just the Quarians. All organic life. That's why they've joined up with Saren. And that's why we have to stop him.
I should go.
See you later.
Yeah, it is definitely really interesting stuff about the origin of the Geth. I can talk to the others down here as well, but I'll save that for another time. But yeah, so it is very... I mean, yeah. I feel that Shepard's line was a bit harsh for a Paragon line. But, no, she's not wrong. The Quarians tried to wipe out an apparently sentient species. So, that's not good. That's pretty bad of them, really. And it does raise a question. Would the Geth have attacked first? Yeah, hard to say. Yeah, we'll never know, I suppose, because the Quarians chose to attack first. But it is worth noting that they have stayed behind the Geth did decide to stay hidden for 300 years. Yeah, if they does definitely indicate that they're not interested in talking to organics, and you know, impossible to know what they're doing back there. So they very well could be gearing up for a massive invasion.
Faster-than-light drives use element 0 cores to reduce the mass of the ship, allowing higher rates of acceleration. This effectively raises the speed of light within the mass effect field, allowing high-speed travel with negligible relativistic time dilation effects. Starships still require conventional thrusters, chemical rockets, commercial fusion torch, economy ion engine, or military anti-proton drive, in addition to the FTL drive core. With only a core, a ship has no motive power. The amount of EZO and power required for a drive increases exponentially to the mass being moved and the degree it is being lightened. Very massive ships or very high speeds are prohibitively expensive. If the field collapses while the ship is moving at faster than light speed, the effects are catastrophic. The ship is snapped back to sublight velocity, the enormous excess energy shed in the form of lethal Cherenkov radiation. Larger warships are generally classified in one of 4 weights. Frigates are small, fast ships used for scouting and screening of larger vessels. Frigates often operate in wolf-pack flotillas. Cruisers are middleweight combatants, faster than dreadnoughts and more heavily armed than frigates. Cruisers are the standard patrol unit and often lead frigate flotillas. Dreadnoughts are kilometer-long capital ships mounting heavy, long-range firepower. They are only deployed for the most vital missions. Carriers are dreadnought-sized vessels that also carry large numbers of fighters. Smaller vessels are almost exclusively used in a support role to the warships during combat. Fighters are one-man craft used to perform close-range attacks on enemy ships. Interceptors are one-man craft optimized for destroying opposing fighters.
And yeah, I'll finish off this.
The Normandy is a prototype starship developed by the Human Systems Alliance with the assistance of the Citadel Council. It is optimized for scouting and reconnaissance missions in unstable regions using state-of-the-art stealth technology. For most ships, the heat generated through standard operations is easily detectable against the absolute zero background of space. The Normandy, however, is able to temporarily sink this heat within the hull. Combined with refrigeration of the exterior hull, the ship can travel undetected for hours or drift passively for days of covert observation. This is not without risk. The stored heat must eventually be radiated, or it will build to levels capable of cooking the crew alive. Another component of the stealth system is the Normandy's revolutionary Tantalus drive, a Mass Effect core twice the standard size. The Tantalus drive generates mass concentrations that the Normandy falls into, allowing it to move without the use of heat-emitting thrusters.
Interesting, I assume.
The Mako infantry fighting vehicle was designed for the System Alliance's frigates. Though the interior is cramped, an M35 is small enough to be carried in the cargo bay and easily deployed on virtually any world. With its turreted 155mm mass accelerator and coaxially mounted machine gun, the Mako can provide a fire team with weapon support as well as mobility. Since Alliance Marines may be required to fight on any world, the Mako is environmentally sealed and equipped with microthrusters for use on low-gravity planetoids. The Mako is powered by a sealed hydrogen-oxygen fuel cell and includes a small Element Zero core. While not large enough to nullify the vehicle's mass, the core can reduce it enough to be safely airdropped. When used in conjunction with thrusters, it also allows the Mako to extricate itself from difficult terrain.
Yeah, that just about finishes up the primary Codex entries. Still got a lot in here. I think I read through that one already. Systems Alliance, Geological Survey. Oh, right. As the human race expands its territory and raises the general standard of living, demand for industrial resources continues to grow. Many planets, moons, and asteroids contain a wealth of resources, but many systems have barely been charted, let alone thoroughly surveyed. Unmanned probes are one solution, but they are often lost to space hazards, unforeseen circumstances, or theft by salvagers. In recent years, HES, the Alliance Geological Service, has offered bounties to private individuals or teams willing to perform mineralogical surveys on the frontier. This survey data is made publicly available to further corporate development. Due to the cost of travel and the dangers of operating on hostile worlds, it is rarely a profitable endeavor. Light metals. Metals with low atomic weight are often used in the construction of spacecraft and vehicles. Heavy metals. Metals with higher atomic weights are used to construct equipment components. The platinum group elements are particularly useful. Rare earths. Most useful materials in the category are radioactive or magnets. Gases. Various gases are required to support all known forms of sapient life. Some are commonly used as fuel. Military, yeah. Alright, I'll finish up in the Systems Alliance set, and then I'll knock it off. Ashore. When a ship's crew leaves the vessel, they are ashore. Though normally used regarding planets, it can refer to boarding a space station. Away. When a ship releases the equipment tethering into a space station or surface dock, it is away. Aye aye. The proper way to acknowledge an order. If told to attack, the correct response is aye aye, sir. If asked, are you proud to be a Marine? The correct answer is yes, sir. ASAP, acronym of as soon as possible. Belay, stop, cease. Bridge, the navigation center of a spacecraft, where the steering is done. That's where Joker sits. Captain's Mast, non-judicial disciplinary proceedings by unit commanders. Doesn't come up in this game. In the series, actually. Yeah, that never comes up. CIC, Combat Information Center, the command center of a spacecraft. The CIC is filled with sensor displays to make sense of the chaos of combat. That's where the galaxy map is. DC, Damage Control, the containment and repair of damage to a spacecraft. Never comes up. Electronic countermeasures used to avoid enemy sensors from passive emissions masking through active jamming. EVA, extravehicular activity, time spent in a pressure suit outside of a vehicle, spacecraft, or station. Flank. The flank is the side of a military formation. Since the soldiers are facing elsewhere, an enemy that can attack on the flank can often turn it or roll it up. FNG. Freaking new guys. Yeah, the F doesn't stand for freaking. Similar, but not quite. Derisive term for inexperienced personnel. Groundside, the surface of the planet. Helmsman, the crew member who pilots a spacecraft. LADAR, light amplified detection and ranging. An active sensor that bounces lasers off an object to determine its bearing and distance. LADAR has sufficient resolution that the data can be reconstructed into an image. Shore party. Spacecraft crew sent ashore on official business. Silent running, an old submariner's term used aboard the Normandy to denote when stealth systems are active. SITREP, abbreviation of Situation Report, evaluation of the current military situation. Spacer, someone who spent most of their life in space. XO, executive officer, the second in command of an Alliance warship. The XO is responsible for administrative and personnel matters. Alliance military ranks. The Alliance uses a modified version of the ranking system that has been used for hundreds of years. Soldiers are classified into rank-and-file enlisted personnel, experienced non-commissioned officers, and specially trained officers. The divide between naval personnel and ground forces, Marines, is small. Ground units are a specialized branch of the fleet, just as fighter squadrons are. This unity of command is imposed by the futility of fighting without control of orbit. Without the Navy, any army is pointless. The Marines, as a matter of pride, maintain some of their traditional rank titles. For example, Marines have privates and corporals instead of servicemen. In ascending order of responsibility, the ranks of the Alliance are enlisted. Serviceman 3rd class, Private 2nd class. Serviceman 2nd class, Private 1st class. Serviceman 1st class, Corporal. NCOs, Service Chief, Gunnery Chief. Good old Ashley Williams. Operations Chief. Officers, 2nd Lieutenant, 1st Lieutenant, Staff Lieutenant, Lieutenant Commander, Staff Commander, Captain Major, Rear Admiral, General, Admiral, Fleet Admiral. And finally, the Alliance Military Vocational Code System classifies the career path of all serving personnel. The MVC consists of one letter and one number. A soldier's MVC indicates proficiency, not rank. The letter notes career path. The number indicates level of experience, as indicated by service record, technical scores, and commendations. All 26 letters are used, and numbers run from 1 to 7. N is the letter code for Special Forces personnel. Lots left to read, and we're just gonna get more, which is, yeah, there's a lot. But I will call it there. So I'm gonna call it a video. So I hope you've enjoyed watching this, and let me know what you're thinking of it so far. Probably not a whole lot to say about this video, not a lot to comment on, except for the Quarians and Geth, really. Yeah, what are your thoughts on them and on the Quarian-Geth war? Because, yeah, that's definitely something that is worth thinking about, really. Were the Quarians right to try to stop the Geth from becoming sentient? My own personal take is not really, because I don't believe that the conflict between organic and synthetic life is, you know, something that has to be automatic. But, yeah, what do you think? For now, like I said, hope you enjoyed the video, and have a great day.